friends. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Storyvine. So this is our family story time slot at 9:30, but the whole day today, we are going to be celebrating traditional storytelling. And so traditional storytelling is an art of telling stories using just your face and your voice and your body and gestures. So actually, I'm going to do a whole story time today without any books at all. And please continue joining us over the course of the day. Storyvine with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library is always the first Thursday in May. And we're going to be doing stories that are appropriate for pre-K up through elementary school. So I am very excited to kick us off today. We are going to start with a family story time that is based on this book right here. And so this is The Gingerbread Man. And this is a story that is from England, maybe, and maybe from Germany. There are a couple countries that claim that they invented the gingerbread man, but I'm going to tell the story with you today. So the version is by Jim Aylesworth, and it's illustrated by Barbara McClintock. All right, so let's tell this story together. It goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a little old man and a little old lady, and they lived together. And one day the little old man said, "Let's make a gingerbread man." And the little old lady said, "Yes, let's." And so they mixed up the gingerbread dough. Can you mix it up with me? We're going to do a lot of participating in this story. And then they rolled out the dough, and then they formed their gingerbread man. So let's make our little head. Can you pinch it? And then make their little arm, and then the little tubby belly, and then the little legs, and then they decorated it with raisins for buttons, and then they painted it with sugar glaze. And then they put that gingerbread man in the oven, and they waited. And pretty soon, the whole house was full of the smell of gingerbread, and it was ready. And so they opened the oven, and they took it out, and then boop, up popped the gingerbread man, and he ran and ran and ran to the other side of the house. And they stared in amazement at him. And that gingerbread man put his tiny little hands on his tiny little hips. Can you do that with me? And then he looked up at them, and he said a line that he's going to repeat a bunch that I want you to say with me, which is, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man." And then the old man reached down to grab him, but whoosh, quick as a wink, that gingerbread man just ran on out the door. And the little old man and the little old lady ran after him, shouting, "Come back, come back." But that gingerbread man just turned, and he looked over his shoulder, and he said, "No, no, I won't come back. I'd rather run than be your snack." And he ran. So you can go ahead and run with me. And he ran, and he ran, and he ran into a butcher. And he put his tiny little hands on his tiny little hips. So go ahead and do that for me. And then he looked up at the butcher, and he said, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man." And that butcher reached down to grab him, but whew, quick as a wink, that gingerbread man just ran on down the road. And behind him ran the butcher, shouting, "Come back!" And behind the butcher ran the little old man and the little old lady, shouting, "Come back! Come back!" But the gingerbread man just looked over his shoulder, and he said, "No, no, I won't come back. I'd rather run than be your snack." And, are you ready? He ran. Go, 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 go. And he ran. And he ran. And then he ran into a black and white cow. And he looked up at that cow, and he put his tiny little hands on his tiny little hips, and he said, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man." And she reached down, the cow, to grab him, but whew, quick as a wink, that gingerbread man just ran on down the road. And the cow shouted behind him, "Come back!" And behind her ran the butcher shouting, "Come back!" And behind him ran the little old man and the little old lady shouting, "Come back! Come back!" But that gingerbread man just looked over his shoulder, and he said, "No, no, I won't come back. I'd rather run than be your snack." And, are you ready? He ran. And he ran. Keep on running. And he ran. Go, 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 go. And the gingerbread man ran into a muddy old sow, which is a word for a pig. And he put his tiny little hands on his tiny little hips, and he looked up at that muddy old sow, and he said, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man." And she reached down to grab him, but whew, quick as a wink, that gingerbread man just ran on down the road. And after him ran that muddy old sow, shouting, "Come back!" And behind her ran the black and white cow, shouting, "Come back!" And behind her ran the butcher, shouting, "Come back!" And behind him ran the little old man and the little old lady, shouting, "Come back! Come back!" But he looked over his shoulder and he said, "No, no, I won't come back. I'd rather run than be your snack." And the gingerbread man ran. And he ran. And he ran and ran and ran and ran. And then, boop, he ran into a fox. And he put his tiny little hands on his tiny little hips, and he looked up at that fox, and he said, say it with me, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man." But that fox was a very cunning fox. He was not hard of hearing, but he pretended like he was. And he put his hand behind his pointed ear, and he said, "Ah, what's that? I couldn't hear you. Come a little closer and speak a little louder." And the gingerbread man stepped a little closer, and he put his tiny little hands on his tiny little hips, and he looked up and he said, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man." But the fox once again put his hand behind his pointed ear, and he said, "Ah, what's that? I couldn't quite hear you. Come a little closer and speak a little louder." And so the gingerbread man stepped even closer to the fox, and he put his tiny little hands on his tiny little hips, and he looked up at the fox and he said, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man." And behind him came the muddy old sow, running and shouting, "Come back!" And behind her came the black and white cow, shouting, "Come back!" And behind her came the butcher, shouting, "Come back!" And behind the butcher came the little old man and the little old lady, shouting, "Come back! Come back!" And as the gingerbread man turned to say, "No, no," all of a sudden the fox pounced and, quick as a wink, before he could think, with a snap and a snick and a lap and a lick, the gingerbread man was gone. And that is the story of the gingerbread man. And there are many versions of the gingerbread man, but that version is from this particular book. Can you clap for that story? You did a great job participating with me. Oh man, if you stay for this whole story time, I'm going to tell you at the end about our summer break program, which is very, very exciting. But before we do that, I thought I would go ahead and do a wiggle song with you. And this song is by the man who wrote this traditional story. This is a soup opera. I'm not telling this one today, but I wanted to hold it up because some of the songs we do at our programs are by storytellers. And so we are going to do a song together called "I Took a Bath in a Washing Machine," because his songs are stories. And so go ahead and get up on your feet, and we're going to do this together. Pretend like you are in a washing machine. So it's going to have you twisting.
I took a bath in a washing machine.
Good job, friends.
I took a bath in a washing machine.
Go ahead and twist.
So I could get myself really clean.
And now it's going to shake us up even
The
faster.
washing machine is washing.
You shake it up in the washing machine?
The
Good job.
washing machine is washing me clean.
Now we're going to put in soap. You ready?
I put in soap.
And now up come the
Came the
suds.
suds.
Ooh, let's do that
I
again.
put in soap. Up came the suds. They washed out dirt.
Is it getting you clean?
They washed out mud.
All right, let's go back in the washing machine. Shake around. Good
is
shaking.
washing me clean. The washing machine is washing me clean.
Excellent job.
It was
Oh,
just
and now
then
the washing machine is going to spin us.
started to spin.
Ooh.
It was just then
Is it spinning you
And it
fast or
started to
slow?
spin.
Oh,
And then I knew
I'm gonna spin the other way.
the trouble I was in.
Good job, friends.
The washing machine is washing me clean. The washing machine is washing me clean. Oh no, the washing machine.
Good job.
Is washing me clean.
Get that washing machine.
Is washing me clean. I hope my mom doesn't put me in the dryer.
Good job, my friend. Clap for that. All right, so we're going to do another traditional tale together, traditional stories. I'm so excited that I get to share this story time with you with no books at all. This story I'm going to tell you is in a bunch of books like Gingerbread Man, including this book, The Turnip by Jan Brett, but I'm going to tell a very different version of it. So I lived in a country called Moldova that is close to Russia. And we lived on a farm there. I lived with a little old man and a little old lady, similar to the last story. And the little old man I called Tata, and the little old lady I called Bunica. And we lived together on the farm, and they grew turnips. They grew great, big, enormous turnips. And one day, Tata decided he was going to make us turnip soup. And we got so excited. And so he picked the biggest turnip out there. And Tata grabbed onto the great, big, enormous turnip. And this is another story we're telling together. So actually, if you guys can grab onto that great, big, enormous turnip, and we're going to pull to the left and pull to the right. And he pulled with all of his might, and nothing. It didn't budge from the ground. And so Tata called Bunica. He said, Bunica vinaicha. And so she came out and she said, what is it? And he said, please help me pull the great, big, enormous turnip. And she said, okay. And so Bunica grabbed onto Tata. And you can do this with me. Tata grabbed onto, that's right, the great, big, enormous turnip. And together they pulled to the left and they pulled to the right. And they pulled with all their might, and nothing. It didn't budge. And so they called for me. They said, Rebecca vinaicha. And so I came out and I said, yes, how can I help you? And they said, please help us pull the great, big, enormous turnip. And so I grabbed onto Bunica, and Bunica grabbed onto Tata, and Tata grabbed onto the great, big, enormous turnip. And together we pulled to the left. And we pulled to the right, and we pulled with all our might, but nothing. And so we called for the dog. And so if you were going to speak dog here in America, how would we call for a dog in its language? Maybe woof, 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 or bow, wow, 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 or arf, arf, arf. Well, in Moldova, where I was, dogs say hum, 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 hum. So let's call for that dog together. Can you do that with me? Hum, 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 hum. And the dog came up and said, how can I help you? And we said, please help us pull the great, big, enormous turnip. And so that dog grabbed onto me with its paws. And then I grabbed on to Bunica, and Bunica grabbed onto Tata, and Tata grabbed onto the great, big, enormous turnip. And together we pulled to the left. Are you pulling with me? And we pulled to the right. And we pulled with all our might, but nothing. It did not budge. And so we called for the cat. And how do you think we called for the cat? It's the same in Moldova. Yeah, that's right. Meow, 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 meow. And we called for the cat, and the cat came up and said, how can I help you? And we said, please help us pull the what? Yes, the great, big, enormous turnip. And so that cat grabbed onto the dog with her little paws, and the dog grabbed onto me, and I grabbed onto Bunica, and Bunica grabbed onto Tata, and Tata grabbed on to the great, big, enormous turnip. And together we pulled to the left, and we pulled to the right, and we pulled with all our might, but nothing. It didn't budge. Well, there was no one left to call. But then below us, we noticed that there was a tiny little mouse that wandered past, and it stopped and it looked up at us and it said, may I be of some assistance? And we looked down at the mouse and said, oh, you're very sweet, but I think you're too tiny to be of much help. And the mouse looked up at us and said, I think you'd be surprised great things come in small packages. And so we said, all right, let's try it. And so the mouse grabbed on to the cat with her tiny, tiny little paws. And the cat grabbed on to the dog. And the dog grabbed on to me. And I grabbed on to Bonica. And Bonica grabbed on to Tata. And Tata grabbed on to the great, big, enormous turnip. And we pulled to the left. And we pulled to the right. And we pulled with all of our might. And pop! Out of the ground came that great, big, enormous turnip. Lift your hands as wide as they will go. That wider. Yes, that is as big as the turnip was. And it fell onto Tata. And Tata fell onto Bunica. And Bunica fell onto me. And I fell onto the dog. And the dog fell onto the cat. And the cat fell over, but the mouse scampered away safely. Well, as promised, Tata made us turnip soup that night for dinner. And can you get your bowl and try the turnip soup? It's good, right? Let's have some more. And it was delicious. And we even left a bowl of the turnip soup outside of the mouse hole as a thank you. And that night, when I went and pulled my blanket up to go to bed and closed my eyes, on the other side of the wall, I heard a tiny voice say, I really am stronger than I thought. And that is the story, The Great Big Enormous Turnip. Can you clap for that story? Nice job. All right, friends, we are going to do one other very quick song. And this is also by Jim Gill, who is the man who wrote a soup opera. And I'm going to be doing that at a follow-up story time as a traditional tale. This is called Leaky Umbrella. And then we're going to end with one final story and a pitch for summer break. So get up on your feet and we're going to get some wiggles out with this song, Leaky Umbrella. And you can start off just clapping, keeping the beat.
I have a leaky umbrella, all full of holes.
So we have a leaky umbrella.
I have a leaky umbrella, all full of holes. I have a leaky umbrella, leaky as can be. Well, that leaky umbrella will be the end of me.
So now it's dripping.
The rain is drip, drip, dripping on my head. The rain is drip, drip, dripping on my nose. The rain is drip, drip, dripping on my shoulders. Well, that leaky umbrella will be the end of me.
Can you feel that rain dripping on you? All right, we have something else leaky now. A raincoat.
All full of holes. I have a leaky raincoat, all full of holes.
Good job.
I have a leaky raincoat, leaky as can be. Well, that leaky raincoat will be the end of me.
All right, so our raincoat is going to drip.
Drip, drip, dripping on my arm. The rain is drip, drip, dripping on my stomach.
On your stomach.
The rain is drip, drip, dripping on my knee.
You can't see my knee, but I'm dripping.
Well, that leaky raincoat will be the end of me.
All right, and now we also have leaky boots.
I have leaky boots.
And since you can't see my feet,
holes.
I'm going to show you on him.
I have leaky boots, all full of holes. I have leaky boots, leaky as can be. Those leaky boots will be the end of me.
So you can show dripping.
The rain is drip, drip, dripping on my toes.
On your toes.
The rain
Look at
is
those toes.
drip, drip, dripping on my ankles.
On your ankle.
The rain is drip, drip, dripping on my feet. Well, those leaky boots will be the end of me. Well, that leaky raincoat will be the end of me. Well, that leaky umbrella will be the end of me.
Good job. Give yourselves a hand. Wonderful, wonderful. And so again, we're doing a traditional story time, traditional storytelling story time today. And those songs that we just did were by a traditional storyteller named Jim Gill. The third story actually dropped on the floor, so give me a second, that I'm going to tell you. And our last story is based on this book, My Froggy Valentine. And this is by Matt Novak. And this is a fun book. It has little peekaboos that you can see through in it, but I'm going to tell it to you and with you as a traditional tale. And I think you'll recognize that the puppet I just showed you is in it. So this is our last story of the day. My Froggy Valentine. This story is from Germany. Once upon a time, there was a princess, and she lived in a tall, tall tower, and she's had absolutely everything that a princess could possibly want, except for She didn't have any friends, and she was very, very lonely. So she would lean on the windowsill of her tall tower. Can you lean on your windowsill with me? And she would sigh, a big sigh. Go ahead and do that with me. And she would say, will I ever find my perfect prince to be my friend? And one day, under the windowsill, she heard boing, 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 plop. And up next to her on the windowsill was a frog. And it said, princess, couldn't help but overhear you. And if you kiss me, I will turn into your perfect prince. What do you think? And she thought about it and she said, ew, no, thank you. No, thanks. And he said, oh, come on, princess, give it a try. And so she was like, well, okay, let's see what happens. And so she puckered up and she gave that frog a big old kiss. Can you do this with me? And he began to shimmy and he began to shake. And then poof, he turned into a troll. Hey, she said, I thought you said that if I kissed you, you would turn into my perfect prince. And he said, I'm prince of all the trolls. And she said, get out of here. I'm not trying to hear that. And so he trolled away. And she leaned on her windowsill again. Go ahead and do that with me. And she heaved a big old sigh. She said, will I ever find my perfect prince to be my friend? And from under the windowsill, she heard boing, 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 plop. And up next to her on the windowsill, what do you think that was? You are right. It was another frog. And it said, princess, couldn't help but overhear. And I just have to say, if you kiss me, I will turn into your perfect prince. And she said, yeah, I've heard that before. Okay. And he was like, come on. And she said, okay. All right. I guess this is just my life now. Just kissing frogs. Cool, cool, cool. And so she puckered up like we're going to do. And she gave him a big old kiss. You ready? And he began to shimmy. And he began to shake. And then poof, he turned into a goblin. She said, I thought you said if I kissed you, you would turn into my perfect prince. And he said, I'm prince of all the goblins. And she said, I am not trying to hear that. Get out of here. And so he goblined away. And so she leaned on her windowsill. Go ahead and do that with me. And she heaved a big, big sigh. And what do you think she said? Will I ever find my perfect prince to be my friend? And under the windowsill, she heard boing, 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 plop. And what was it? Yeah, it was another frog. And that frog said, princess. And she said, let me guess. If I kiss you, you turn into my perfect prince? And he said, how'd you know? And she said, okay, yeah, let's do this. And she puckered up and she gave him a big old kiss. And he began to shimmy. And he began to shake. And then, poof, he turned into a hairy beast. He had hair coming out of his eyeballs and hair between his teeth and hair coming out between his fingers and out of his ears and out of his belly button and everywhere. And she said, let me guess, you're the prince of all the hairy beasts? And he said, how did you know? And she said, go on, go away, go away. And so he beasted away. So she leaned on her windowsill one final time, and she heaved the biggest sigh in the history of all sighs that have ever been sighed. Are you ready? And she said, will I ever find my perfect prince to be my friend? And under the windowsill, she heard boing, 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 plop. And it was the biggest, slimiest, wordiest frog that she had ever seen. And it said, princess, I just have to say, I'm sorry for everything you've gone through today. I've just watched everything that has happened. And I just want to say, completely up to you, totally your choice. But if you decide that you want to kiss me, I will turn into your perfect prince. But totally your choice. And she sighed and she put on some chapstick. And she said, all right, let's do this. And she puckered up and she gave him a big old kiss. And nothing happened. Hey, she said, I thought you said if I kissed you, you'd turn into my perfect prince. And he said, I'm prince of all the frogs. And then she began to shimmy and she began to shake. And then poof, she turned into a frog. And they got married and they lived together happily ever after. And that is my Froggy Valentine. Can you clap for that story? So friends, we are going to end our story time now by a little bit of a pitch for spring break. So if you are part of the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library system, we would love for you to join us this summer for summer break. Read, learn, explore. There's the website right there. And so if you join us, all you have to do is log on to the website and keep track of your learning activities between June 7th and August 14th. And just for signing up, you get a free Wendy's Frosty, so bonus. And when you complete the program, then you will win a free book. So sign up starts May 17th, and your adult can find you more information about that. Please join us again at 10, at 10:30, at 11, at 11:30, all day today. We are going to be telling traditional tales. There are 10 more storytellers that are going to do one story a piece, stories from all over the world. The next one is Cendrillon from the Caribbean. And then after that, Sodi Saleratus, an Appalachian folktale, and on for the rest of the day. So happy Storyvine, and we hope to see you very, very soon.